Nobody expects the Queer Inquisition, do they? Anyway.
I knew that was coming.
Gotta make the references. So, first story here is Manchester Pride CEO faces calls for resignation after damning investigation into his finances. What's happening with the finances at Pride? I mean, these things make lots of money. What's he been doing with it? So, Manchester Pride CEO Mark Fletcher has refused to resign after a damning BBC investigation raised serious questions about the finances of a major LGBT plus event. You know, there's Pink News reporting on it, so I bet they were doing this for, like, grinded teeth. As Fletcher appeared on BBC Radio Manchester and Gay Dio, I don't know what that is.
I think they've made that up.
Yeah, it's like radio.
They can't even say radio without having to bring sexuality into it.
Did you know we're gay? It's evident, mate. Don't worry. Like you're running Pride. Okay. On Wednesday, 11th of August, amid uproar over Manchester Pride cutting ties with two local charities, the LGBT Foundation and George House Trust, citing a loss in revenue due to COVID-19. So he's like, wow, rates are down, not making the money we have to, we can't sponsor these charities anymore. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be true. As business in the city's gay village came together to fill the funding gap, Manchester Pride was forced to account for a notable drop in charitable donations both before and after the pandemic. According to BBC Radio Manchester, in 2018, the event donated nearly £150,000 to charity, around 6% of its revenue. Only 6. I mean, how much
That's
money
a
are these
lot of
people
money, yeah.
running into just for running Pride, for Christ's sake? God, anyway. The following year, Manchester Pride made a record-breaking £3.94 million Pride event. Pride event made 4 mil.
That's ridiculous.
That's incredible. I didn't know how much money was in these things, but I need to get in on that. Yeah, its charitable contributions were halved to 3%, amounting to just £122,000. So they made more money, and yet they were like, we're going to cut the budget for the charitable side of this.
That is very strange, yeah.
To 3%. So 97% of the money that goes to Pride doesn't end up with charities. It ends up with the organisation to do with what they want. That year saw the festival headlined by pop star Ariana Grande, who reportedly had a performing fee of £350,000. So they spent more on just Ariana Grande than all of the charitable donations combined. Cost nearly 3 times more than the event's charitable contributions. Overall, the organisation spent a total of £3.19 million that year, 1.6 million more than in 2018, with 1.5 million on event production. So they gave 100 grand to charity, just over, but spending 1.5 mil on just event production.
I don't even know what event production means. Is that
Setting
just
up Pride,
the cost of holding the event itself? That's still a huge return if they're getting, on average, around 4 mil.
How the hell does it cost that much, though?
I know, yeah.
Like, these events aren't that luxurious, are they? Well,
And it is up in Manchester as well, so it's going to be cheaper than down south, I imagine.
But for certain people, it's very lucrative, I guess. So the interviewer from BBC asked him, why did you spend nearly £1 million on event production? And he responded with, it's very, very costly and expensive to deliver a festival. 4 mil? We are not wasteful with our money. We ask our audience, what do you want? Who are the performers you want to see and come and celebrate with LGBT people's lives like you? We then approach these performers and we are able to operate in a flexible way because we've built strong relations with them in a way which other commercial festivals don't. What, because if they don't come, they're going to be called homophobes, I imagine. I'm not confident.
Strong relationships under threat of coercion.
The Inquisition has strong relationships with a lot of people. When quizzed on the drop in charitable donations, Fletcher strongly denied cutting ties with the two funds that he's been with for 25 years. And this is where it gets interesting, because he says, it's not something we want to do, it's not something that's happening, in the idea that he's cutting these funds to the charities. And you might think, okay, some guy's not giving money to charity or whatever. I mean, what's important is that the charities, the reason they've been cut, not because of the money drop, it's because they're helping non-gays. That was his complaint. So if we go to the next link here, this is the Twitter link, in which you can see BBC Northwest there. They say that the Trust says it didn't receive any funding in 2019 because Pride had concerns about the Trust helping everyone living with HIV, whatever their sexuality.
How awful.
So Pride
all
Manchester
I have to say about that.
were donating money to this charity to help people with AIDS, HIV, sorry. And they were helping everyone with HIV, being very inclusive. And Pride were like, oh no, you don't. Well, that's only for gay people.
That's so...
It's just scumbag.
Yeah.
Like, what a scumbag thing to do. It's like, how
So
dare you
awful.
help straights with HIV? They're not important.
I mean,
God.
never mind the fact that, eliminating it altogether, obviously not something feasible in the near future, but is a goal. Surely it's in your interest to help straight people as well. in that cause. I mean, it's not like it's just like, oh, you know what? We're only going to infect those homophobic straight people.
But donations to healthcare, they have to go along the lines of whoever donates it, apparently now. And the Pride movement's version of this is, none of our money shall ever go to straights. Shall only stay within the gay ummah, or whatever. So we have that, but then we also have the man himself, the CEO. So we go back. The broadcaster also grilled the CEO on his £20,000 pay rise in a single year. One Pride employee received in 2019 £20,000 pay rise, which brought their salary to £90,000 a year to run a charity. Fletcher was forced to admit that this employee was him, so, even though he initially denied it.
Wait, so he was just like, yeah, an employee of mine got a £20,000 pay rise.
There's only one employee.
It was me.
It could be me. So he gave himself 20 grand, even though he's like, yeah, donations are dropping, even though they weren't.
Did he actually like put it in those terms where it's just like, yeah, an employee of the charity, trying to conceal it?
You can see that I didn't receive a £20,000 pay rise, and then she goes on to be like, yeah, but you did. And he's like, well, yeah, I did. But that was part of my pay structure. It's like, what, see...
That's still a pay rise, yeah.
What is this deflection? But, oh, boy. So as donations dropped, and then... No, they weren't dropping, were they? As pointed out, they were made up by the gay village. I don't know what that is. I haven't been to Manchester in a long time. Well, at least not that part of Manchester. And even though they were getting the money, he decided to give himself a pay rise and also cut off funding to charities that were daring to help straights. Because death to straights, I suppose.
Imagine doing that the other way around. It's just like, yeah, we're going to give money to people with a disease, but if they're gay, forget about it. No chance.
They don't get healthcare. I mean, you saw the NHS trying to do this.
So
they're like, if you're racist, we won't help you. It's like,
so liberal.
Oh boy, but yeah, this is just an organized festival. That's what it is. It is not about being gay or anything like that at this point. Not gay tolerance. It is about politics, frankly, and putting on a show. I mean,
apparently making money as well.
I mean, only 3% gets spent on stuff like charitable donations, and most of it gets spent on the production of the festival. Like a ridiculous amount, millions of pounds.
It's like its own self-sustaining thing, isn't it? It's dependent on the festival to get most of its money.
Also very unwholesome people running it by the sounds of it. The fact that he's just giving himself a pay rise for, why not? It's money. Just steal it. Anyway, so there's also the Inquisition part of this, which I wanted to get to, because you've got people skimming money out of all this. You've also got them banning books. So this is a situation in America. American Booksellers Association to screen for hate after anti-trans book sent to 750 stores. They're going to pre-screen the books to see if they're acceptable.
Oh yeah, I've seen this before.
The screening process comes after the ABA was forced to carry out an internal review following an inexcusable error that meant that several copies of this book were sent to members and it caused irreversible damage. Right. Okay. So the book is called Irreversible Damage: The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, and that's the damage he thinks that has been done. But they also say here it was also sent to them on the 14th of July, which is International Non-Binary People's Day. Oh no, not the holy day. The holy day of Ramadan. It's like International Non-Binary People's Day. But if you're worrying about where we've seen this before, we saw it with the Pope, the Catholic Church, and the English Parliament, regrettably. But apparently we follow Rome, even when we're not meant to. So we go to the next one here. I don't know how you say this in Latin.
Imprimatur?
Basically, just let it be printed. So this is a Catholic thing in which the Catholic Church, in its response to Protestant Reformation and whatnot, decided that the Inquisition would be in charge of who could print books to see if they was okay to be printed. The English ended up doing this as well. So they say in here, the quote, their declarations that the book or pamphlet is free of doctrinal or moral error. That is exactly the same thing the American Book Association wants to do. They're going to check the books for doctrinal error. Are you engaging in hate speech? What's hate speech? Anything that points out that, transitioning a child is not reversible.
Stating objective facts. Hate speech.
They also say that at the time, no implication is contained therein that those who have granted the section will agree with the contents, which is kind of funny because it reminds me as well. They're going to be like, I don't agree with the contents of Mein Kampf, but it doesn't have any doctrinal error against transgenderism, so we're selling it. Anyway, so we also did this in England with the 1662 Act, which was the act which Parliament passed to make sure that no books were published that offended Parliament because they just killed the king and they made themselves sovereign. which totally normal thing to do. But anyway, so this isn't new, and it's the thing that John Milton argued against in Areopagitica. If we go back to it, because this is amazing, including the anti-trans book in its July promotional box, they said of it that it violated our commitment to equality and inclusion and caused harm. The book caused harm. How did the book cause harm?
Threw it at someone? I don't know.
It literally did nothing. It exists, but yeah, that's causing harm. So as a result, the books in next month's promotional box will be screened for hate speech before being sent out. Liberal people here.
On the topic of books, actually, did you see recently that the Orwell Prize, they employ people to be sensitivity readers? This came out very recently.
This, I think, was in response to this situation as well. So, moreover, the chief executive, Alison Hill, wrote to members on the 5th of August saying the ABA was making a $5,000 donation to the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund. What? So, some damaging book was circulated and you've suddenly got to pay a fine of $5,000. Because that's what it is. It's an indulgence to be like, forgive me for my sins. How dare we have circulated this book? Because, of course, this donation is entirely voluntary.
This whole thing has like a weird kind of religious setup, hasn't it? You've got to pay money to absolve yourself of sin if you read a book that is supposedly...
It's got to be approved by the Gay Inquisition. I mean, the reason I'm calling it the Queer Inquisition is because it is. It is exactly the same thing the Catholic Church did, which is, if you want to publish a book, you need our approval. And this utterly failed because, I mean, what are you, an idiot? Like, you can just print books elsewhere. But whatever. So they're going to try and do that, but also the indulgences there of, well, I've given $5,000 back to the transgender community. So, yeah, okay. That's just a fine, isn't it? So they also say the policy to not review or screen titles submitted is in line with many members' preference to not have the ABA decide what books they have access to, preferring to review books themselves to determine what they shall read, buy, sell, and promote. Oh, glory. So you can technically buy the book still, but in any of the packages they're sending out, they're not going to send them. So you can get it, but only by going by other means than the normal means for them.
So they're just making it more difficult, really.
Yeah. So that's them saying you can, but it won't be easy. Which, again, I mean, happened with the Catholic Church. I mean, you could get some books, but weren't so easy, were they? Other planned changes include an audit of all internal ABA policies and process, quote, through a diversity, equality, and inclusion lens. So they're going to review everything for doctrinal errors, as the Catholic Church did. A new copy editor role responsible for reviewing the conscious language and awareness of equity and inclusion issues. So they're going to have someone looking up the language within these books to make sure they're, again, in line with doctrinal theory. Ugh. They also said that Amazon previously acknowledged the book's offensive content when it suspended a paid-for advertising campaign last year from the author of the book, although it continues to sell the title. Yeah, and? Like, that's the thing. It's not good enough for them just to ban it, is it? Everyone else has to ban it too. It can't be read by anyone because it disagrees with us. I mean, literally ban this sick filth.
I mean, at what point does someone start banning books and think, well, actually, aren't we kind of becoming the people we're meant to be, like, fighting against?
So they're the people they admire.
Apparently so.
But Amazon aren't exactly some bastion of free speech either. I mean, they did ban, Alex Jones's movies talking about free speech. Rather ironic. And they also banned Robin Tomlinson's book about Islam, in which he just took the Quran and rearranged it in chronological order. That was it.
Such blasphemy.
Mein Kampf's not banned. If you want to buy Mein Kampf on Amazon, go ahead. It's produced in India and sold around the world through Amazon.
It's actually produced in India.
Yeah,
it's awfully fitting.
Like the price on the back is in rupees. And it's like, oh boy. But you mentioned the Orwell Prize, because this ties into this. We can get the next one up. You can see the Free Speech Union retweeting the Orwell Prize. So the 2020 Orwell Prize winner is to be vetted by sensitivity readers. What?
Yeah, that's not very fitting, is it? Orwell Prize. Oh, we need to vet our books.
And if they don't like the book, what, they're going to put it in the memory hole? And
put it in room 101. Why not?
It's going to be gone. Yeah. Instead of defending free speech, the Orwell Prize now says it, quote, acknowledges the concerns and hurt the book caused. Another book down the memory hole. Totally right, from the Free Speech Union. This is why I like the Free Speech Union guys. They're absolutely solid on issues like this. But also just the Orwell Prize. Of all people.
The subversion there, where it's like the go-to books for, advocacy of free speech, and then they're like, yeah, we're going to censor stuff now.
Yeah.
In Orwell's name.
Like, I expect the Queer Inquisition to be... I just realised what I just said. So I expect the Queer Inquisition to be particularly censorious, but I did not expect, like, the people who venerate Orwell to buy into this as well. But I don't know what I'm thinking. The ACLU always fell out with this stuff as well, so good God. But last thing I wanted to mention was a story that kind of made me wonder about Pride. Because we went to Pride Swindon, and there was some degeneracy, not too bad compared to like San Francisco, but San Francisco is San Francisco. Across the pond, well, across the channel in the Netherlands, oh boy, this isn't good. So this is a picture that won an award in the Netherlands. Most aesthetic Pride photo. Images what will hopefully stay taken for granted. Photo celebrating diversity. That's the name of the photo. And it's a photo of a bunch of men in like short leather shorts and, I don't know, what do you call that, straps around themselves? And then a picture
Harness, I guess,
of a toddler with some swings in front of them. This is celebrating diversity, according to the author of this photo. That's what he called his photo. And they gave this an award.
Little bit strange, just to say the least. I mean, why is this supposedly a good thing?
I mean, you know,
something to be celebrated and given awards as well.
The caricature of the Pride movement, gay movement throughout the, let's say 2000s and 90s, was always that, well, they'll come for your kids. Stop. What the hell is wrong with you people? Like, when you're venerating grown men in sexual outfits around children, do you think there's something wrong with you? Anyway, let's go to the article in which this is real, because I thought it was a joke at first. As they say, it's the most aesthetic Pride photo. It certainly, goddamn, is not. The photo competition of the Pride was won by Jan van Breda, a totally normal man who took this. Amongst others, more than 13,000 photos were submitted, but 3 of them ended up in the history books. The photographers all won a prize of €2,500 each. They had 13,000 photos, so it's not like they had 3, and they were just like, wow, I'll just pick one, because they're all like this. No, they went through 13,000.
And thought this was the best one.
That's the best one, according to these judges. Amsterdam Pride.
Not good.
The Pride organization previously made an appeal to send in the most iconic, meaningful, and aesthetic photos to celebrate 25 years of Pride Amsterdam. In the end, a selection of 50 photos was chosen for the outdoor exhibition Celebrating Diversity in the Vondel Park, I don't know where that is, from which 3 winners were chosen from a panel of experts. Experts
in what?
God knows. Such is the most aesthetic photo of Jan van Breda. Quote, this photo, in its composition, child in the foreground, men preparing for Canal Pride in the background, everyone's busy with their own activities and fascinations, sublimely depicts what will hopefully remain self-evident, that we, unhampered by prejudices, and almost unsuspectingly, all may and can exist side by side. No, we can't, mate. No. What the hell is wrong with you? You cannot have children involved in your Pride parade. I don't know what's wrong with you when you have a bunch of grown men in sexual outfits. That's not living side by side. That's sick. Ugh. But if we go to the next link on here, you can see the event itself. If you can scroll down, eventually there's like an image of... Yeah, stop there. So you can see like the billboards they set up. So apparently they had all the images on billboards as well for the public to see. And still, no one was like, this looks like pedo stuff. What the hell is wrong with you? No, instead that went all the way to the top and they gave it the award, which is just gross. Of course, also sponsored by Amazon and T-Mobile, this whole event. Every time.
Of course it is.
Every single time. It's always sponsored by corporate world, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, kind of a sad thing to end on there for that story, but the Queer Inquisition. Apparently going to screen books, steal people's money from Pride, and celebrate diversity, as they call it.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.